Okay, great. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Brian Batista. I am with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection here at the City of Chicago. I am joined by Miranda Raskin with the Mayor's Office and Meg Gustafson with the Department of Planning and Development. And we will be talking with you today about the Chicago Urban Agriculture Land Access Application. This is the third round of this program to help folks who are interested in boosting up urban agriculture in the city of Chicago by applying for land parcels that will be available coming October 1st, which is tomorrow, through the city's land sales portal, Shy Block Builder. So we'll go ahead and get started. Quick overview of today's agenda, the welcome, and then obviously we'll talk a little bit about our various programs and sort of how we came here to have the Urban Agriculture Land Access Application available. We'll do a little bit of review of the application, just so folks know what it is that they're looking for when they are interested in applying for this program, applicant eligibility and the selection criteria, the requirements for the program, and then our expected timeline. And then we may be able to access the website just to kind of give you an overview of how to apply. Since it's the day before, we might not have access to it, but we'll at least show you how to get there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the scoring criteria for the application and the deadline for the application, and then we'll get into questions and answers. And again, folks, if you have any questions about the presentation, either put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and Miranda and Meg will be helping me out with those questions to let me know what they are as they're coming up. All right, so a quick overview of business affairs and consumer protection. We ensure fair and vibrant marketplaces for businesses, workers, and consumers in the city of Chicago. Our office does a lot of different things, but we do things like licensing for businesses and for public vehicles that are used for those businesses, regulate business activity, and we protect consumers from fraud, ensure that businesses are following Chicago's labor laws, and partner with business servicing organizations that provide education and resources for businesses. So we work with a lot of chambers of commerce. You'll see there at the bottom where the economic recovery programs, which this urban agriculture land access application falls under this domain here, in highlighted in red. Again, just another quick overview of a couple of things that we do at BACP, but most importantly for this presentation, you'll want to look at the bottom. We are located within the Economic Recovery Program, and specifically within the segment of food equity, which is to adopt different types of programs to make the city of Chicago a more equitable place for food access for all of our residents. This began because, as we all knew, COVID-19 had different and exacerbating effects on inequalities throughout the city of Chicago and our neighborhoods. This is an investment that BACP is working on from federal dollars coming from the federal government, focused on increasing food equity in communities with a history of disinvestment. And we're doing that by encouraging the development of urban agriculture sites by local growers, providing funds to entrepreneurs who are part of the food ecosystem, and then funding local food incubators. And this was all an initiative that came up out of the Food Equity Council. So that's a private and public partnership dedicated to transforming Chicago's food system into one that is just and equitable for all of our residents. So, since we had highlighted on the Food Equity Council and how we've discussed in the last slide, we wanted to encourage the development of urban agriculture sites by local growers. That's sort of how this program came to be. The city of Chicago wants to reduce barriers for urban agriculture by increasing land access for growers throughout the city um, who are applying for city-owned vacant land to be sold for $1 per parcel on the city's land sales platform, Shy Block Builder. And again, this is to help support projects led by growers who have experience and shown commitment to growing edible produce or food for their community and who have a long-term plan for stewarding the land. Successful applicants should demonstrate that they have the sufficient financial and technical resources to start this process by January 2025. The sites that are included in this round are sites that have been reviewed for at least an initial environmental assessment by the city and are in areas that are zoned for urban farming or community gardens. Land sold through the urban agriculture land access application will be sold for $1 per parcel. A site is defined by a set of continuous city-owned vacant land parcels. So a site could include one parcel or more parcels. The applicant must apply for the entire site they must apply for the entire site and they are not able to apply for a individual parcel if that site has more than one parcels. So if that site has 3 parcels, you can't just apply for one. You're applying for all 3. Ineligible sites are ones that have received applications in previous rounds of city land sales. So those sites that received applications and are not being offered in this round because they're going through a different process will not be available. Now, on to applicant eligibility. Folks who are eligible for this program can be individuals, nonprofit organizations, or business entities in the city of Chicago that are willing and able to own the site if they are selected. The commitment has to be to growing edible food or produce for the local community where the site is located. The applicant should have connections to that community where they would like to grow in and provide a detailed community engagement plan that aligns with the community's overall goals. They have to have a long-term commitment to stewarding the land. So that means that we expect this to be an urban agriculture site for at least 10 years. They need to be able to maintain and care for the site, which includes providing the different types of infrastructure needed for the site to become an urban agriculture site, and also have the financial readiness to purchase and pay the property taxes, purchase the site and then also pay the property taxes on the site, as well as all the other operational and maintenance costs for the site. And then typically we want folks who have previous experience growing in especially in an urban setting. And before the title process or transfer process can begin, the grower must have shown us sufficient progress towards establishing the site as an urban farm. So that would be things like obtaining all the necessary permits and everything else for the infrastructure to be installed at the site. Now, for applicant eligibility, just a little bit more about what will be required, like the materials required for the application. Obviously, we need to make sure that the application is submitted through the Shy Block Builder application portal. So that means the application has to be submitted online through that portal. There needs to be a detailed project description and a site plan for the site. So what the applicant plans to do with the site, what they plan to do with the site as an urban agriculture site. They need to create and include a project budget. That can include things like the cost for the first year of ownership, water access costs, cost of taxes, construction costs for different infrastructure that will be needed at the site, like hoop houses or greenhouses, fencing, soil beds, seeds, and other types of labor costs. But not limited to that, but those are just some examples for you. And then we also want to see proof of support from the surrounding neighborhood or community. That can be through neighbors on the block, community organizations located within the area, nonprofit organizations, as well as other community growers who the applicant has worked with in the past, who can discuss or provide support of the type of growing experience that the applicant has. And also there should be a description of the impact that the site will have on the adjacent neighbors in the surrounding neighborhood. So we want to see that the applicant is doing their best to honor and then also be a part of the community that they're going to be growing in. The financial requirements for this program. The applicant should have sufficient financing to pay for the annual anticipated costs of land ownership in addition to the operational costs for the site. So again, that's going to be including your annual taxes and water access and the costs for water as well. So we really want to make sure that the applicant has all of the financing necessary to make sure that the site is functional and self-sustaining. There can be other costs to ownership and maintenance of the site, which would include things like licensing, different types of merchant licenses or business licenses, in addition to the urban agriculture license or other permits as needed for where the site is located. The applicant needs to make sure that they submit a project budget and proof of sufficient financing for all necessary costs. And if you have questions about what that looks like, this document that is on the Urban Land Access Application website for BACP, if you Google BACP Urban Land Access Application, you should be able to pull up this document from our website that gives you information and examples about what this looks like. I'll go ahead and give this.
I threw it in the chat also.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Miranda.
I think that's the updated version. And
Sure.
if you could just go back to the slide quickly, I
Yes.
just also wanted to clarify that roughly like sufficient financing to begin the project should be around 20K on hand, and that could be personal finances, business finances, or like grants that you have secured or know that you will secure between now and like January or February 2025.
Thank you, Miranda. Can you also clarify, Miranda, you can still see the right screen, right, with the slides?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so thank you, Miranda, for that. And again, to reiterate, guys, if you have award letters from different grants that you're participating in, Department of Forestry or other types of agriculture grants, or other working with universities or other community groups that are providing you with funding for this program, please ensure that when you apply for your program or this program that you attach those award letters, at least so we know who to contact in case we have any questions about the grant and when it starts and the potential things that it can actually help pay for participating in this grant.
Hold on, Brian. We're having, I think, some issues about the chat. People
Sure.
not being able to see. It says chat's disabled. Would you be able to double check to make sure that people can access the chat?
Gosh, yeah, sorry, everybody. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I think it should be updated now. Can folks try and see if they're able to?
I just threw the link back in.
Okay.
If someone
Yeah,
could respond that they have access to it now or not, and we can figure it out.
yeah, I think it says that everyone should be able to put into the chat now. Okay.
Okay, we can move on and I'll make sure that, we can, if people can't access the chat, we'll send an email out with all the relevant documents. And I can see the questions that people are putting in, so continue to ask them.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Miranda. Okay, so for the selection criteria for this grant, All applicants or all applications need to be received by the deadline, and they will undergo a review by a group from the city who are required to ensure that all the required components are there and that all questions are addressed. The review team will also determine if the proposal is incomplete, and if so, it will not be considered for the program. And proposals that are determined to be complete will move forward to the review panel. So make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's on this application and include everything that is being requested in order to make sure that your application goes into the actual review panel to be scored for the application. The things that we'll be scoring this application on are the different categories that you see on the screen now. So first, we're going to be looking at sustainability of the project. And that will be whether the projects show a clear commitment and financial and technical support and partnerships with other organizations and a clear plan for identifying future funding. So we want to make sure that the program or the applicant has a plan for sustaining the site over the course of the 10 years that they will have the site if they get selected. So the applicant really needs to be able to show that they have clear evidence of all of those things, financial and technical support, partnerships with other organizations, and that they have a plan for identifying continuous funding for the site. Feasibility of the project, we want to make sure that the project has clear plans and designs and a realistic timeline for getting the site going, and that they're ready to start activating the site by spring and summer of next year of 2025. We also want to make sure that the applicant has projects that have support from other growers, neighbors, or organizations, as indicated through letters of support, attendance at community meetings, or clear plans to engage the community that they want to grow in. And again, the project, what we really want to see is one where they're going to grow and provide and sell food in the community that they're growing in. The applicant, we want to make sure that those are folks who are within the city of Chicago with connections to the neighborhood that they're applying in, and that we want to make sure that those communities that they're applying in are places that are disparately impacted or disproportionately impacted by food insecurity. So I believe we have resources for what those neighborhoods are on our informational document that we had just referenced in the last slide. And then, of course, we want to make sure that the folks who are applying for the site are folks who have experience growing. That can be with urban agriculture settings or other types of projects. But we really want to see that this person has experience with growing food in particular and providing food access for different communities. Now for the program requirements and the timeline, I know this slide's a little bit busy, but just make sure that a few key takeaways from this website or from this slide is that we want to begin the process to permanently transfer the land to the applicant. And that process can take several months. So patience is definitely a big part of this program, but also working with the Department of Department of Planning and Development to make sure that that process is started as soon as possible and that we get working on that transfer right away. We want to make sure that the applicant is also working with us at the city to secure a right of entry agreement for the site. And that permits them to access the site and then also start the site preparations before the land transfer is actually completed, so that the person can make sure that infrastructure and things like that are being planned in lock and step with the actual land transfer process. We also want to, sorry, go ahead.
I also just want to clarify that filling out a right of entry and doing this isn't a requirement, but you know, it is if you are selected as an applicant in January and want to begin like growing preparations in March or April, you will need to apply for a right of entry because the land sale process itself won't like the land won't close for another 9 months, just like moving through city council processes, which I can talk through a little bit on the next slide, but this is just a way to be able to access the site and start prepping urban ag activities before the transfer, but not required.
Awesome. Thanks, Miranda. And we also want to make sure that the applicant is working with the city's Department of Fleet and Facilities Management, or 2FM, to secure the right of entry for the site, so that the site could be prepared for growing. In order to be eligible for a ROE, or a right of entry, the applicant must complete the economic disclosure statement and the ROE request form. Provide proof of insurance that lists the city of Chicago as an insured party and meets certain coverage requirements, and submit a scope of work for what the site is going to be looking like. And additionally, the ROEs, or the right of entry, is active between a minimum of 30 days and no more than 180 days. For now, folks, really the big focus for you all will be to apply for your sites. When selected, we will be working with you on securing the right of entry after you've been selected, but keep in mind that this will be a part of the process. A bit of additional things about the requirements and the timeline. Again, this is a long-term project, so we expect the applicant to do long-term stewardship of the land, providing urban agriculture at the site for at least 10 years, after which there are no restrictions on the land use. But for those first 10 years, the site has to be utilized for urban agriculture. Selected applicants should be or will be required to submit proof that they are using the land for urban agriculture to BACP, and we'll be monitoring that land activity annually for at least the first 5 years. Active maintenance of the site can include, but is not limited to, growing produce for the community, maintaining the soil beds, weed removal, maintenance of fencing, and then maintenance of hoop houses. So making sure that we are being good neighbors to the folks where the site is located in, and maintaining the site. And the farms or agriculture sites are expected to be fully operational within the first 5 years, selling and providing food to communities experiencing lack of access to healthy foods. And if by the 5th year, the site has not achieved these milestones, DPD may require the owner to sell the land to another entity who can continue urban agriculture work, or just reconvey the land back to the city. So keep in mind this really will be a project that will be monitored to ensure that it is complying with the requirements of the program. Now a bit about our timeline here. So the application will be closing in mid-November of 2024. DPD and BACP will be reviewing in December of 2024 to January of 2025. The applicant will be notified at the beginning of next year, sometime in January 2025. In that meantime, we will request that the applicant provide an aldermanic support letter for their site. So the applicant is meeting with the alderman's teams, requesting and providing them with a site plan and letting them know how they plan to utilize the site, and requesting a letter of support from the aldermanic office where the site is located. The final budget, financials, the design for the program or for the site, the title and environmental clearance and assessment, and the EDS and the scofflaw clearance, all of that will need to be provided by the applicant starting at the beginning of next year. Then it will go to the Plan Commission in February of 2025. And if it's in a TIF district, it will need to go to a different Commission in March of 2025. Then it should be introduced to City Council in April of 2025. It has to go through the Housing and Real Estate Committee by May of 2025, and if all goes well, then it should be passed through City Council by summer of 2025. The closing checklist items would be to ensure the water certification, that the deed is in the right language as provided by AIS or 2FM. AIS, sorry, being the Assets Information Systems, I believe, or Services, or 2FM Facilities, Fleet and Facilities Management. That the grantor and grantee statement is prepared, that again, the EDS and the City Council has published that this has gone through. And that should be about 2 to 3 months after. So by autumn, more or less, of next year, the project should be fully within ownership of the applicant.
Right. So if you could just go back to that slide quickly. Yeah, just wanted to speak to the fact that the city land sale process does take a lot of time, has to go through a lot of committees. The city is like working through our like cut the tape initiative of expediting some of these processes, such as like removing the EDS. And like me, Brian, and Meg can like walk you through what this process looks like when it is actually happening. But also speaks to why like getting a right of entry might be a good idea. And that yeah, fall of 2025 is like the realistic timeline for when the transfer is completed.
All right, thank you, Miranda. All right, so if we're looking at what site preparation looks like, or what BACP will be looking at when we were monitor the sites to ensure that they are in compliance with what we're asking for. Again, some of the first big items would be to get the business licenses that are necessary for the site, depending on whether the site is going to be under the ownership of a single person or sole proprietorship, or if it's going to be partnering, like collaborative type of ownership, or if it's going to be owned under an organization or entity. So think about those kinds of things now as you're planning to apply for the site, who is going to be the owner. Additionally, the licensing that will be necessary for the site in order to be able to sell the produce at the site. The applicant will need to, once chosen, they'll need to ensure that they have the urban agriculture license. Again, that allows them to sell what is grown at the site, and it is one of the requirements in the city in order to be able to sell food there. And again, this is food or produce that's grown there, that specifically that type of food. And then additional site preparation would include things like water installation, fencing, soil preparation, development of raised beds, and installation of hoop houses or greenhouse infrastructure. All right, so let's go ahead and see if we are able to open up Shy Block Builder.
My guess is that you are not
Oh,
able, and
darn.
yeah, so the application opens tomorrow morning. Wait, if you can go back to the
Sure.
website though. So yeah, but the link will still work and you will just, it says application closed, but instead it will say application open, and there'll be a drop-down menu for Urban Ag where you can view all of the open sites that are eligible for Urban Ag. You will click on that site and it will direct you to the application itself. And maybe like when it opens up, Brian and I can put a little YouTube demonstration on in the same place that we post this info session in. But you can also currently look at the inventory of city-owned vacant land just to see what is out there. And if you are interested in a site that is not listed, you should contact me, Brian, and Meg, and we can work to see about listing it in a future round of the Urban Ag land access application. So just some grounding information about Shy Block Builder, which is the city land sale platform. But yeah, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Miranda. So yeah, please remember everybody, you are applying for this site on Shy Block Builder. Once we have the recording up on the BACP YouTube, I can go ahead and send you all the link to apply for Shy Block Builder in the link to the recording. So it'll include that for all of you, the link to where this recording will be on the BACP YouTube page, and then also the link to Shy Block Builder. So expect that tomorrow, because I want to be able to send you all the link to the Shy Block Builder website once it's actually available for you to apply for the sites. But just keep this in mind, the sites are going to be about 1 to 3 parcels. Again, you are applying for every parcel that's included in the site. So if your site has 3 parcels, you're applying for all 3. You need to list the different pins and addresses for each parcel. Has its own like address and pin. So please make sure that you list that in your application. You're going to explain how, or I'm sorry, this this was for me, but once you actually apply for the site, you'll see that it kind of takes you through the application questions. So just make sure that you include all of the parcel pins and addresses when you're actually in Shy Block Builder applying for the site. We have different recordings from our previous land access applications on the BACP YouTube now. If you want to go to a demonstration of those, you can actually see us like opening up the application or the portal and then actually going to the different sites that were available. But again, we'll include the link to how to apply for these sites when we send this out tomorrow.
Yep, and you can apply for multiple sites. That won't penalize you in any way. You just have to fill out separate applications for each site.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miranda. Okay, guys, so the maximum score that an applicant can get on this application or per application per site is 100 points, that being the maximum score. And as you can see, each section has its own number of points available, maximum points available per section. So the sustainability of the project is worth 30 points. The feasibility of the project is worth 25 points. Community support and impact is worth 25 points. The overall applicant eligibility is 10 points, and then the growing experience is another 10 points. And just to reiterate, guys, we really want to see plans that are fully developed, that are have a realistic timeline, that are sustainable, both in terms of finances, but also just like actual readiness to get the site activated. That includes things like partnerships and clear plans for future funding. And we also want to make sure that the activation of the site is, again, achievable, that there's a realistic timeline, that folks are really ready to start activating the land, and ready for next year's like harvest season in autumn of 2024. And that the proposal is really well thought out and well designed, and has measurable and achievable goals to grow food by next harvest season next year.
Yeah,
Again,
and
sorry, go ahead, Miranda.
no, I'm sorry, finish off.
I just wanted to say, yeah, just the last few points here in community support. We really want to make sure that we have a site that the applicant is integrating themselves really well with the community that they're going to be growing in. So that means you are actively engaging with other growers, neighbors, and other organizations in addition to the local governmental offices in the area, like the alderman's office, so that you're keeping them aware of what's going on with the site, how you're integrating different programming to meet different needs in the community. So are you partnering with schools? Are you partnering with different food types of organizations? Are you partnering with any other types of community groups that are working on different things in the neighborhood to improve safety, civic engagement? What sorts of things are you doing in the community to be part of it? And then also we want to make sure that the site is going to somebody who is already residing in the city of Chicago or has a connection to this community. If you're not from that area, please tell us what got you interested in working with this community in particular. Provide that because we often can't tell that. If that's not provided in an application, we want to see what drew you to that site in particular. And then additionally, you talk about your experience with growing in an urban setting or any type of growing experience that you have. It doesn't have to be something super formal, like something that you have listed on your resume. It can be stories of growing up with your family in different agricultural settings or different urban garden settings that you've done throughout your life. Please make sure that you bring those stories into your application when you're applying. And sorry, Amanda, I think you wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, no, you covered a lot of it, but I just wanted to point out that, like site plans for each site might look a little bit different. The the sites are roughly between 3,000 and 9,000 square feet. So, a feasible site plan for one site might be different than a feasible site plan in another. So like these are very site specific, and the same thing for like timelines and like what technical support you might need. And then yeah, also just we want to like see like clear staffing plans or partnership plans, like who will be like doing the growing, who will be doing the business planning, who are your partners in community. Just like as getting as specific as possible is always good. And also when the application opens and you can see the available sites and you're interested in applying for one, like while you're applying, I think a good first step is to reach out to your alderman to like make that initial connection. A letter of support from them is going to be super helpful when you get to the city land sale process. They'll have a lot of insight into who they believe like you should be providing produce for or selling produce to or community partners. So you can do a lot of this community building, community engagement while the application is open. And even after it closes, like there's always community engagement to be done, and you can like send us the evidence of that community support at any point in the application.
Thank you, Miranda. All right, so now on to the deadline. This application will close on November 15th at 11:59 p.m., so right before midnight. All the applications have to be submitted online. Anything emailed or faxed will not be accepted. Again, we're trying to decide and let folks know that about their applications by December to early January of 2025. Again, you'll need to apply via ShyBlock Builder. And all proposals, again, need to be submitted through ShyBlock Builder by the deadline. You have to have all the required components addressed and included. Any proposal determined to be incomplete will not be considered. We also reserve the right to waive any irregularities that within our sole discretion, we determine to be minor irregularities. And if that is waived for one application, that will be waived similarly across all applicants. All right, so now we're at the Q&A section.
Yep, feel free to throw any questions in the chat. And also, I know we are still having some chat problems, so I will throw it in the Q&A, my email and Brian's email and Meg's email. Okay, there's a question about will there be a fourth round for this process in 2025 as well? And yeah, tentative likely answer is yes. Another round of Shy Block Builder will open in April 2025. So like I said, if you don't see a site that you're interested in, or the site that you are interested in isn't listed in there, the best thing you can do is to contact me, Brian, and Meg, and we can determine from the Department of Planning and Development side if there is another planned development on that site, what the environmental clearance is, and if there isn't another plan, if it is environmentally clear, or you have a plan for remediation, we can help connect you with the alder and be able to list it in the next round of Shy Block Builder. So there's a lot of pre-work that needs to happen to be able to list a site, and it's best to start that now. But yes, there will be another round in 2025.
I don't see any additional questions coming in.
Yeah, maybe we give it one more minute, and
Sure.
then we'll close off. And Brian, the question is, will the meeting be sent to our emails? And I believe the
Yes.
answer is yes.
Yeah. So tomorrow, again, I just want to make sure that the actual website is up before, like, that it's open to applications before we send that out to all of you. Just because I don't want to send out the link to the recording without actually being able to provide you all with the access to the link to the website. So stay tuned for an email from us tomorrow. It'll probably be going out to you all by noon tomorrow. So just make sure that you are that you included your emails when you registered, and that you check that email that you included for the link to the BACP YouTube recording of this presentation, and then also check it for the link to Shy Block Builder to apply.
And also during the application process, if you have any questions about the wording of questions or documents that we request you upload, you can reach out to us as well.
Mhm.
Okay, question about, can sites have livestock like chicken, quail, rabbits on site? So the main thing to be produced on the site has to be like produce and food. I don't think you can like slaughter animals on site, and I think that would bring up a lot of questions with the alder. So the main purpose of the site has to be produce production. I think chickens and eggs it depends on like the neighborhood that the site is in. It depends on the alder's tolerance for that. But
It also, I think, depends on the zoning
yeah,
of the neighborhood. Because typically, in order to be able to sell produce at these sites, all you're going to need kind of like across the city, really, for most places, is the urban agriculture uh, license from BACP in order to be able to sell produce. So if there are additional activities going on related to food production, at that point it sort of gets into different licensing and permitting that you'll need from different departments. So specifically for this urban agriculture land access application, we are talking about produce. I believe certain things like having like an apiary or like beekeeping on the site is permitted. You just have to be working with the state of Illinois on that, since they have purview of beekeeping in the state. But anything related to actual livestock is actually going to be something that is outside of the realm of this program, and you'd have to work with the appropriate departments, and then also ensure that the site is actually zoned for livestock and animal keeping um, with in that at that site location. So definitely make sure that you check the permitting requirements for the site, if that's something that you're interested in doing.
So long story short, not immediately um taken out of the running for an application, but yeah, won't yeah, depends on the zoning and what the rest of your site plan looks like. And I hear you about environmental plan for fertilizer and organic farming.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. You guys are already thinking ahead of what it is that you want to do with the site, and how it is that you're keeping the site sustainable, both financially and then also just like uh, environmental wise. So yeah, definitely if that's going to be a part of it, include that in your site plan. Mm.
Um,
So I see this question about whether the sites need to be in raised beds or growing in the ground, sort of permitted, I believe is the question. If you can clarify if that's what we're talking about. But yeah, so typically, installation of soil beds is going to be really important for most of these sites, but there is going to be a number of different types of environmental testing that will also be required at the sites. And that will really guide where it is what the next step will be for the site, depending on the environmental review. Am I getting that correct, Miranda?
well, a majority of the sites we've listed are environmentally clear, which it just means that they are good for like people to immediately access and start growing on. But yes, raised beds are required on city land. So
Got it.
no in-ground growing. Raised beds is the way to go.
That's just a safety precaution, guys. We want to make sure that we're using the safest and highest quality soil possible for any food that's going to be disseminated to the community. You're welcome. Any additional questions? Oh, we still have about 8 minutes left if you'll have questions. Miranda or Meg, is there anything else really important about this round that you all feel like we should cover before we conclude with folks?
No, not that I can think of right now.
Yep, no, I think we covered it all. And yeah, I'll reiterate it one more time. If other questions do come up, feel free to reach out. My email and Brian's email and Meg's email are on the Urban Ag Land Access website. And I can re-up that link in the Q&A as well. But yeah, no, thank you all for coming and good luck on your applications. And yeah, thanks for making this program what it is and just like a good way for people to access land in the city.
And thank you, everybody. Thanks, Meg and Miranda. And yeah, guys, you have from tomorrow until November 15th to get your applications in and also communicate with us if you have questions about applying for a site or any questions in particular to the site that you're interested in. And then also, guys, if you didn't see your site listed in this round, please communicate with us as soon as you can, so that we can try to work on listing that site in future rounds. Make sure that you collect the addresses and pins. And if you have any questions or concerns for us, feel free to reach out. I will be sending you all an email with the recording and the link to Shy Block Builder to apply tomorrow by the afternoon. And thank you, everybody, so much for everything that you do to boost urban agriculture here in the city of Chicago. We really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. And yeah, we hope to hear from you all soon. Good luck.
Have a nice rest of the day.